Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I'm so excited to welcome Alka Joshi to Orland Park Library tonight from a distance. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Katie Allen, and I am the Adult Services Manager here at the library. And it is my great pleasure to welcome Alka to us tonight. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm always excited to talk to readers about anything that is book related because it's fun. It's fun to figure out what people liked, what they felt about the characters, which characters they resonated with, because everybody's opinions are different, and it's really interesting to me.
For sure, for sure. How is the weather where you are?
The weather is good. I'm seeing this little fuzzy spot is driving me crazy. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah. So the weather was really, was sunny today, and now it's gone overcast. But yeah, it was really nice.
It's quite chilly here in the Chicago suburbs. I think it's about 15 degrees right now.
Oh,
So
I'm so sorry.
you look quite cozy in your sweater, so I think you'd fit right in.
Yeah. This is like one of my favorite, ways to be cozy in the wintertime. I love this one.
That's great. Well, just a little backstory. So last year I selected the Henna Artist for our library's Pages and Pastries book discussion. And we were all just absolutely enchanted with this book. I think it was probably our favorite book we read last year.
Wow.
And I think it was because in the midst of pandemic life, like being transported to this entirely different place and time, this colorful and sensual world that you created with these characters that we just really cared about, and we wanted to know what happened to them. And so I thought it was so wonderful that you gifted us with a sequel. And that picks up with the characters 10 years later. So my first question for you is, did you always envision this as a trilogy?
Never. No.
Really?
I was really interested in getting the first book out because it was a tribute to my mother. I really just wanted to envision an alternate life for her through Lakshmi. And then my mother died after about 3 years of working on the novel, and I felt really bereft. I thought there's no reason for me to continue. I stopped working on it, and then I picked it up again at the urging of one of my thesis advisors in my MFA program. And so I picked it up again, and then got an agent, and then the agent had me working on it for years before she would send it out to anybody. So my goal was, I'm going to finish that first book and get it out the door. That was what I was counting on. But then there's about a 6-month lag between the time that the book goes to the printers, and it's been copy edited, it's been proofed, goes to the printers, and now the author has nothing to do but wait for the release date when it becomes a real book. So there I was, sitting around, and I was thinking about my next project. I was trying to write about this young woman who was a painter. And Malik from the Henna Artist just started knocking at my door saying, okay, you know what? You've got all this information about me that never made it into book one. You need to write about me because you already know most of my story. You know my backstory. You know what's going to happen to me 10 years from now. Why don't you write that? And it was such an insistent voice that I finally had to listen to it. I didn't want to, but then I started, writing the story. And I'd written about 20 pages, the first 20 pages. And my agent said, show them to me. I sent them to her. And then she sends them off to our publisher. And the publisher said, oh, we're going to buy this. We're going to buy book number 2. And I said to my agent, book number 1 isn't even on the shelves yet. How is it that they're banking on book number 2? And she said, hey, let's not look a gift horse in the mouth. They obviously think that the first book is going to do well based on pre-orders that they've gotten. So that's what happened with book number 2. And then when I finished book number 2, I realized that I had left out Radha's future story, which I already knew about because that didn't make it into the first book either. And so I thought, I cannot actually shoehorn Radha's story into book number 2. I couldn't do it. And so finally, I just thought, okay, I'll just have to do another book. And I just got done with my first really good draft of that book that I sent off now to my publisher. So that's how it became a trilogy.
Wow. So it's on the way.
Yeah.
Wow. How exciting. We will eagerly anticipate that. Can you talk about how your writing process changed from writing the first book to the second?
Yeah. First of all, in the first book, what I learned are the ways in which you get to know your characters. Number one, you want to create visual boards of all of your characters. So, look through the internet, look through magazines, look through any kind of reference materials that you have to see what your characters in your head look like, and if you can find representations of them. You put all of those on a board, whether it's a digital board or whether it's a physical board. Now you want also representations of where they live. So you start looking for those and you put those up on your board. And then you want to start thinking about their backstories. Where did they come from? Did they have parents? Were they orphans? Did they have things that they loved to do when they were little? Did they have brothers and sisters? Did they live in more than one place as they were growing up? So all of these things for every main character. And I have like 16 characters. So I had to develop that backstory for each character. And then as you develop the backstory, you get to sort of remember that about your character. And then I start envisioning scenes. So that's kind of how I write. I'm very visual in my also process. And even in my writing, I'm very visual, the way that I describe everything and the way I see everything. And so what I see in my visual sort of scenes that I'm seeing is I actually see everything in that scene. I see where the furniture is laid out. I see where people are standing. I see whether there's a candle on the table. I can actually smell what's happening in that room. And so as I envision these scenes, I start thinking, okay, what are these characters saying to one another? What do they want from one another? What do they want from their lives? And what do they want from their scene? So those are also things that you have to explore with every scene. So my process then gets very detailed and refined as I continue with my drafts. And I keep adding to the backstories as I think, oh yeah, this character would have done something like this, or they would have played this game when they were a young kid. So I, start blending all of those into my narrative. So the first book took me 10 years to get all of that blended into the narrative. Now, the second book, by the time I was writing book number 2 and then book number 3, I know these characters so well already. I know their backstories. I know what they look like. I know where they live. I know all of these things about them. So I didn't have to go through all of that. Now I just had to concentrate on the actual story itself. What are they doing? Where are they trying to go? And, whom are they involved with at this time?
Wow, that is so fascinating. I find myself taking notes, and all your wonderful writing tips. I'm curious, as a librarian, I have many patrons who listen to the book on audiobook, and I'm wondering if you were part of that process at all.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, I always wanted to be part of the process. I wasn't sure how it would go because I'd never, written a book before. So Harper Audio sent me 5 narrators, female narrators, reading Lakshmi's voice. They read the same passage. And so I could compare and contrast. And when I heard that first set of tapes, I thought, I don't hear Lakshmi's voice. Is this all like these are the only choices I have? And so I thought, I better tell Harper Audio that I don't hear Lakshmi's voice yet. But then I sort of stopped myself because I thought maybe they're going to think I'm a diva if I go back and say, oh no, none of these people are right. And I just thought, I don't want to be, as a debut author, I don't want to be a pain in their ass. Right. And so I thought, okay, maybe what I should do is just take the onus upon myself to find a good narrator. And I went to Audible, where you can listen to the first 5 minutes of every book for free. And I started looking at all the South Asian books and then female narrators in those books. And as I listened, I found her. I found the one who actually ended up narrating the Henna Artist, and that was Sneha Mathan. And as the moment I heard her voice, I said, oh my God, I think that's her. So then I went back to Harper Audio and I said, could you please have Sneha Mathan read the same passage? And I didn't hear from them for a week. And I thought, oh no, I've overstepped my bounds. Now they do think that I'm a diva. Oh no, I've just, ruined my relationship with them. But no, after 7 days, I got back the recording of her recording the same passage. And she was Lakshmi. She was absolutely Lakshmi. So that worked out really well. And then in The Secret Keeper of Jaipur, once that was, once the audio was being done for that, now they trust me. So they're like, okay, Alka, whom would you like? We have Lakshmi's voice in The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. We also have Malik's voice, and we also have Nimmi's voice. Nimmi is his beloved. So then I also got to choose Nimmi and then Malik. And that was a little bit harder, I have to tell you, because Malik is younger. And I didn't know if he was, he has just graduated from the Bishop Cotton School for Boys, which means he has had more of an English education, a British education. And so now, does he talk street smart still? Does he talk with a little bit of an English accent in his voice? So I had to really think about, what Malik's character would do in that instance. And then Nimmi, who is a tribal woman, is even more complicated because she doesn't speak the same dialect everyone does. She speaks Hindi, as most people in India do, but she has also probably an accent in her Hindi because she has a whole different dialect that she speaks. So how is she going to come across in English? These are all really interesting kinds of questions that you have to explore when you're doing audio.
Right. Were you happy with the final results?
Yes, and moreover, my readers are also, and listeners are also really happy. And that's the key, like once you find readers are saying, oh my gosh, when I heard Malik, I thought that was perfect. That makes me feel good because I feel like, okay, job done.
What has it been like releasing these two books in the midst of a pandemic? I'm sure that was not in your plan when you were spending so long writing.
No, my first inclination was to panic because the Henna Artist was released before, one day before the World Health Organization announced the pandemic. Everybody panicked. All my launch events were canceled. All the bookstores closed down. All the libraries closed down. Everything was closed. And I just thought, what do I do now? Like there are warehouses sitting around at Barnes and Noble and Amazon and all these bookstores, these independent bookstores and libraries, and nobody can get to the book. What's going to happen? So I reached out to social media and I said, look, you guys, here's what's happened. I'm on lockdown and I have this new book and I've been telling you guys about this book for the last year. Now, if you got an early copy or if you got an e-copy or if you got an audiobook, would you please contact me and just let me know, what you think of it? And could you talk to your book club about it? Could all of you guys get on the phone with me? And people started Zooming in with me. And, that was early stages. None of us really knew how to work with Zoom then. And so we had lots of little snafus, but we got it. And as soon as people started Zooming, they started telling their friends, oh, by the way, this book was fantastic, The Henna Artist, and the author will come talk to you. So I had so many requests pouring in that, let's see, earlier today, I did my 669th book club since May of 2020 when The Henna Artist was released.
Goodness, such stamina.
Yeah, I have to do about 1, 2, or 3 per day. And I get over, 400, 500 requests a year. So I have to sort of, put some limitations on them and say, okay, if you have at least 8 people in your book club, I will talk to you. I actually like the coziness of an 8-person to 10-person book club
Mhm.
I can handle also up to 15, but I like being able to talk to each person individually,
Mhm.
address them by name, ask them about, what they liked about the book, to answer their specific question about the book. I love that. It's much easier and I think much more rewarding than when I'm in a big audience, like a book signing, and I'm doing a big audience and I am talking to 60 people because I'm not feeling that one-on-one connection that I really like.
There's no intimacy really there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's one of our patrons that we owe your presence here tonight. Irene Wasserman is one of our
Oh,
book club members, and I know she had the chance to see you. I think it was at a bookstore event, and then she came back raving about you and
oh,
suggested that we reach out to you. So
oh.
a
You
special.
know, what's really interesting, Katie? I think that writing these books and then talking to people about them, I feel as if I finally have found my tribe, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
I think, for 6 decades, I haven't known where I belonged. I didn't know whether I belonged to the South Asian community. I didn't know whether I belonged to the American community. I didn't know whether I belonged to the book community or to the community of corporate people, because I've been working in corporate industries for so long. I didn't know whether I belonged in the advertising world, like which community do I belong in? And having written these books and then talking to readers day in and day out, I feel like this is my wheelhouse. This is the community. It's a community that includes people around the world who understand what it is to have little agency in their lives and what happens to a woman in particular, because the Henna Artist is really about women's agency. What happens to a woman when she doesn't have agency? Does she fight to get it? Does she give up? Does she become depressed? Does she, reinvent herself as a whole new person so she can have agency? And we have characters in the Henna Artist, each of whom decides to do something a little different to get that agency. And women all over the world resonate with it. And then I have men who resonate with both of my books because they're historical, because I am writing about a period in India's history that doesn't get talked about very often. The Henna Artist takes place in 1955. The Secret Keeper of Jaipur takes place in 1969. And a lot of people don't know about what was happening in India during that time. And I love the research that goes into that time period and being able to tell people, look, India was under British rule for 200 plus years. And so what Indians were very busy doing post-independence after 1947 is rebuilding their industries, rebuilding themselves, regaining an identity and saying to the world, this is who we are. We're not who you think we are, but this is really who we are. Because for so long, we were defined by the other. We were defined by the colonizers. We were defined by the invaders who invaded India for her wealth, for the spices, for the silks, for the gold. And I feel that, it's important for people to acknowledge that once the colonizers left, India was alone in trying to figure out who she was as a democratic nation. And I think it's remarkable in 70 years how far she has come.
Yeah. Have you heard from readers in India
Oh my
about?
gosh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, I would say probably a third of my readership is South Asian.
Really?
Some of them from India, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, the four countries there in that subcontinent, but also all of the South Asians who have migrated in all over the global diaspora. And I hear from all of them. And the kinds of things I hear are so heartwarming. For example, I have a group of 5 brothers and sisters who went to the same kinds of schools as Malik did in The Secret Keeper of Jaipur. And some of them even went to that school. And then they also went to the same school that that Radha went to, the girls portion.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so that's really heartwarming because these people are now like 95 years old, right? And they're reading my book and they're thinking, oh my God, this takes me right back to when I was, a teenager and going to school up in Shimla. And then I have lots of people contacting me and saying, I live in Jaipur or I have been to Jaipur. And I love what you have written about Jaipur. It totally resonates with anything I know about that city. So, I write about Jaipur, I write about Shimla, I write about these places that other people know intimately. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you wrote so well about this place. And you wrote about the food that I love, and you wrote about the kind of people whom I know, all the gossiping aunties and the women like Lakshmi who are trying to make it on their own. And of course, the art of henna. They all know about that. And so, yeah, it's like old home week when I talk to them.
It's wonderful to be able to make those connections. I know that the character of Lakshmi was based on your mother, and there's so many strong women in these books. Do you have a favorite?
I think Lakshmi is definitely my favorite, right? Because she looks just like my mother. She has green eyes like my mother, and I have blue-gray eyes, and my younger brother has green eyes as well. So, we're all easily identified because we all have those same light-colored eyes. And but I think when Lakshmi starts negotiating, when she is in her business mode, then that is me. Because I ran my own business for 30 years. And that's really, the way I would negotiate. That's the way I would talk to somebody who's being difficult, like a client, So these are sort of things that I have embedded in Lakshmi that are me. So I am closest to Lakshmi. I identify with her. She, of course, is a lot more patient than I am. She is as patient as my mother was. She has my mother's very graceful demeanor, and I tend to be a little sloppy. So, the other person I think that I identify with, or that I really resonates with me, is the older Maharani. I just adore her. She is so eccentric. And, she drinks her gin and tonics. She waters her orchids with her gin and tonics. She takes care of orchids because she didn't get a chance to be a mother. And the orchids, the hothouse that she runs, gives her a chance to do that. And she makes an appearance in both the Henna Artist and the Secret Keeper of Jaipur. I just could not leave her alone. She's just fascinating to me. And I like the fact that, her way of gaining agency was that she had a husband who would not let her have her own natural born children because he did not want a crown prince that came from his loins, since the astrologer had told him that his own son would try to dethrone him. So he never let his wife have her own children. So what does she do? She gets herself a talking parakeet, and she names him after her husband. And then she orders him around for the rest of his long life. And I thought that was really, really, charming that she was doing that. Malik, of course, is somebody everybody loves. Malik is somebody who everybody can relate to and resonate with. And oftentimes people ask me if he's based on anybody real. Well, Malik represents to me a lot of street children in India. They are everywhere. And in every big city, you'll find them on the street corners. They are either asking, tourists whether they can carry their bags for them, or they're asking if they can help them get to the next destination. And, for a few rupees, they will, take you to the best, chai place, whatever it is that you're looking for. And I think that I really find their resourcefulness intriguing and admirable. These kids raise themselves for the most part. Their parents are busy scraping together a few dollars for dinner that night, and they're out working, doing whatever they can. And so the kids are often truant. They won't go to school because they want to help the family get a little bit of extra income. And that's who Malik is. He's scrappy, and he's a go-getter. And he could have gone either way. he could have gone and become a little con man because he is that smart, or he could have gone with Lakshmi and realized that this is a woman who's going places much farther than I can probably go. And if I hitch my star to this woman, I think I would be in a good place. Because he sees how, you know, her in her bearing, she has dignity, and she is always like in a hurry to get somewhere. You know, she has places to go, people to see, and he sees that in her. She has ambition in her, and I think he wants to be a part of that. And she's also so well dressed that he knows that she's not scrappy. You know, she's got something going on. So I love that about him.
Yeah, no, we adored his character so much, and it was so delightful to see him come to Secret Keeper. So speaking of gentlemen and male characters, was it a challenge to write from that perspective?
Not really, because I have two brothers. I have an older brother, he's 2 years older, and then I have a younger brother who's a year younger. And my brothers are, you know, I used to say to my mother when I was a little kid, I used to say, Mom, can I have a sister? I really would like a sister, because I felt like there was too much boy energy in the house. And as I grew older, I realized that I actually am in a great place being the only daughter and the only sister. My brothers have always taken great care of me. Do you know what I mean? Like they've always been there for me. They read my books. They talk about my books to everybody. You know, and I think being the only girl, my mother raised me in a very specific way to be very independent. If I'd had to share that with a sister, you know, who knows, you know, I may not have become as independent, because my mother just focused on me and said, you're going to do everything you're going to make all the decisions in your life that matter. So, you know, I feel that it really turned out to be exactly how it was supposed to be. I was supposed to be the only daughter, and I like that. But yeah, my brothers taught me a lot about what it's like to think like a boy. I remember when I went off to college, my older brother sat me down and he said, now, Alka, there are a lot of boys at college who are going to want this from you. So be on the lookout for that. It's okay for you to say no. It is perfectly all right for you to, you know, like he would just sat me down and had a little sex
beautiful
talk.
Yeah, older brother. Yeah.
That was really funny.
It's sweet though. And also with gentlemen, it from interviews I've read, it sounds like your husband has been very supportive of your journey along the way.
Yeah, my husband, I think it's kind of amazing. His middle name is Jay, and that is why Jay Kumar has that name, because he shares a lot of traits with Jay Kumar. My husband is not a doctor like Jay Kumar, but he definitely has the ability to listen. He listens really well, and he does not immediately give you what he thinks about the situation or start giving you advice. You know, like a lot of people are sort of thinking, oh, I'll help you solve that problem. Sure. He's not like that. You know, he'll just say, so do you need something from me? You know, if I tell him about something, and I'll be like, yeah, you know, I need for you to help me decide, should I go in direction A or direction B? And he says, well, let me think about it. And he thinks about it, and then he comes back and tells me. He's a very gentle person. And he is the one who takes care of our dogs and worries about them and takes them to the vet. And, oh, honey, I think there's a little bump on Coco. I think we need to have that bump looked at.
How many dogs do you have?
We just have the two. We have a miniature dachshund. And he is, you know, deaf, dumb, and blind at this point. He's like 16.
Oh, he's an elder.
Yes. And then we have Coco, who is 6, and both of them are rescues, and we've had Coco since she was a puppy. And we thought we were getting him a little playmate, you know, while he was still moving around and being frisky. But it turned out that Coco doesn't like him. So,
well,
So she just gives him hell, and he just sort of cowers in the corner, poor little guy, because he's what they called a soft dog when we got him. He's a soft dog.
Okay.
So anyway, but my husband has to deal with these two different personalities, and I think he does a good job.
That's wonderful. I know Irene had mentioned that you have a fondness for jewelry that I think
Yes.
you share. Yes. Have you always been intrigued by the world of jewels?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love jewelry. I love jewelry of all kinds. And I get that from my mother, because my mother would go to garage sales and she would pick up a little trinket and she would go, honey, what do you think of this? And I'd be like, Mom, that's amazing. That's fantastic. She would pick out, like, let's say rhinestone jewelry. She would pick out modernist jewelry, like what I'm wearing today. She might pick out something that's very, Indian looking, from some garage sale. And she just loved picking up jewelry for herself and for me. It's just something that I learned to love. And I liked her eclectic taste. So I also have an eclectic taste in jewelry. I will combine a vintage piece with something very modern. I love the modernists of the 1960s, but I also love, some of the very intricate Indian jewelry that I have from my mother.
Very cool.
And by the way, it's because I love jewelry that I made gold such a big part of the secret keeper of Jaipur. Indians are just completely enamored of gold. South Asians, the Chinese are the same way. If it's not 22 or 24 karat gold, it's not gold. It's not gold. And so for a dowry, for a wedding dowry, you must have 22, 24 karat gold that the groom's family is giving to the bride. It has to be that. You cannot just go with 14 karat, because that's like giving somebody garbage. Can you believe that? So in India, the quest for 22 and 24 karat gold is enormous. Think of how many people are in India. Think of how many millions get married every year. 100 million people must get married every year. And so there's a lot of gold that is necessary. Well, India stopped producing gold. They don't have any more gold left. They stopped producing it such a long time ago. Very little gold is actually mined in India. So then they had to start getting it from other places. They get it from South Africa. They get it from Brazil. They get it from, all kinds of different places. And I was thinking, well, then if they get it from all these different places, how does it come into the country? Because India has a Gold Control Act, which means that you can only allow so much gold into the country in any one year. And it's not enough to service all those weddings. Okay. So then I started looking into it, and I thought, well, why was the Gold Control Act even enacted? It's because every time Indians give gold to a bride, does she sell it? No, she keeps it. And then she passes it on to the next generation and the generation after that. Everybody is hoarding gold. When all of these Indians are hoarding gold, the rupee devalues. So when the rupee devalues, because everything's based on a gold standard, right? When the rupee devalues, then it hurts the entire government and it creates inflation and whatever else. I don't really understand all of that stuff, but it creates a problem financially. And so the Indian government said, look, you guys, we're going to have to limit the amount of gold that comes into the country and that is sold. So all these jewelers then all of a sudden found themselves with only half of the gold that they needed to sell. The demand was so high. Well, so what happened with all of this is that it created a huge black market for gold that is then ferried into the country illegally, sold, half of it is sold illegally to all these jewelers. And it still ends up in people's houses and at weddings and so on. And so I just wanted to sort of explore all of that. What is it about Indians that makes them want to hoard all this gold and keep the gold? And, why is it so important? So that's what got me started on the whole trek of the secret keeper of Jaipur and the gold that is carried illegally down through the northern mountains of Himalayas.
That's fascinating. I did not know any of that. So I love to learn. I think historical fiction is so wonderful in that way. it's like a 2-for-1. You get a wonderful story and you get some education all wrapped up together. So I like that.
And Katie, what I think is also really important about historical fiction, and I'm about to give a lecture in Dubai on this very same subject. I think that historical fiction is really women's history. So many parts of women's history, so much of women's history is left out and has been historically left out of textbooks and also of just major fiction. Because fiction that became super popular was oftentimes written by men. And men were not concerned with a woman's household chores or the way she wore her jewelry or whether she wanted to do henna on her hands. That wasn't something that men wanted to write about. So many aspects of female history were left off of textbooks and all kinds of books that were written. And I think that now with the, really huge growth in historical fiction in the last, let's say 30 years, that's really women writing about other women in different time periods. When you think about Girl with a Pearl Earring, or you think about, the Kate Quinn series, The Huntress, and, some of these other kind of things that are coming out. And I just read a whole thing about the, the orphans in Canada who were, sent away because they were, born of women out of wedlock, girls out of wedlock, things like that. All these things are written by women, and they are unearthing all kinds of research and trying to piece together women's lives in different time periods. I just think that is phenomenal. I think that literary historical fiction really needs to be taken seriously because they're teaching us about how women lived through a certain time period.
It's a very powerful point. Yeah, that's going to stick with me. I'm wondering if you can share anything about the status of the Netflix development.
Yeah, I can tell you this. So when I sold my option to Michael Edelstein, his company was the first one that approached me. And he had contacted Frida Pinto, whom he knows personally. She's a friend of his. And he said to Frida, I'm going to send you this book. You got to read it. She read it and she said, oh my gosh, I love this story. Not only do I want to play Lakshmi, but I want to executive produce this story, because I've been looking for South Asian stories, to bring to the big screen and little screen. So he said, great. And then he had a first look deal with Miramax TV. And the whole thing about Michael's vision for this is that the Henna Artist could be an Indian Downton Abbey. That was really important to him because he had been in charge of NBC Universal in London when Downton Abbey was being filmed. He saw how the whole episodes, how the whole story laid out season after season. And he said, we have all the hallmarks of that within the Henna Artist. We have all the ingredients we need to make this a memorable series season after season. So he said, Alka, that's what I'd like to do. And I thought, oh my gosh, an Indian Downton Abbey. Yeah, that was music to my ears. Of course, I would love to have that. And then I said, Michael, listen, if I sell you this option, I would really like for you to populate the writer's room with mostly females and mostly South Asians, because I want the stories to be written by the people whom it really concerns. He said, okay, I will do my best. Now, last November, I had a chance to go to Los Angeles and meet my writers. There were 6 writers, and of those 6, 5 of them are South Asian, which is amazing. 4 of them are women, and including the lead writer. So, true to his word, he is providing opportunities for all the people that I think really need to be involved with this production. They are writing the episodes now. Netflix is giving them notes. And hopefully, after this, they keep writing more episodes. And we have to film this in Jaipur. So I think so much of this has to depend on COVID and what's happening in Jaipur at the time.
Sure.
Because hopefully we will be filming this series in late 2022 this year or early 2023.
Wow, that's so exciting. Indian Downton Abbey is just too exciting. So,
because I mean, it's fun. We've got Maharanis, we've got palaces, we've also got the poor like Malik, we've got Lakshmi, who's in the middle. We've got all of her Parvati and her ladies, the circle of elite Jaipur women. We've got the builder. We've got so many different kinds of people in this story, and each of them has their own tale. Then we've got Samir Singh, and I'm dying to see who they cast as Samir.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be so wonderful to see this on the screen because it was so cinematic when you read it. It's a testament to your skill that it just came to life on the page. I can't imagine what it's going to be like to see it on screen. So,
but also, Katie, that's a testament to all the wonderful editors I've had, and also my agent. Because like I said, my agent would not let this book out of the gate until she really felt it was fabulous and it could be sold and it could become a bestseller. She didn't want to just put something out there that would just be mediocre, because she said, Alka, we put something out there that's mediocre, we are not going anywhere. You will never be able to write another book again. Nobody will want it. And so so much kudos to my agent, for holding back, and making me wait 7 years before she would send it out.
It seems like she was right.
Yes.
Because here we are. Is there a book that you wish you'd written?
Yes. I love most recently, I mean, there's so many books I wish I'd written, but most recently, I have a couple of books that I've read that I think are great. One of them was All the Light We Cannot See. I'm just in awe of Anthony Doerr. And then another book was Min-Jin Lee's Pachinko. I don't know how she was able to construct a world of 4 generations of South Koreans. That to me is really daunting. I mean, my books take place within a year, it's done, and all my characters are living within that year. I don't know how I would be able to do something that goes on for 4 generations. My hat is off to Min-Jin Lee for doing that.
That book was extraordinary. That was one where I finished it and almost wanted to start it over again when I finished it. So,
and then of course I have to mention my mentor from my MFA program, Anita Amirazvani, who wrote a book called The Blood of Flowers. And she wrote that, I think, about 15 years ago. But it is a phenomenal book. And it deserves its own spotlight because it is about a female rug weaver in 17th century Iran. And it is every bit, I think, as visual as the Henna Artist.
I love that. I'm writing these things down. I just see a comment from Irene. She's admiring your ring and saying she thinks it'd be very useful for pushing the buttons in an elevator during the pandemic.
How sweet.
Let's see. I saw an interview where you mentioned maybe working on a graphic novel about your mother's life. Is that still in the works?
What I was thinking is that the Henna Artist could be a graphic novel, because there are a lot of people who are visual learners and not, they don't really read. And so I thought it would be beautiful to turn this into a graphic novel. It is already so visual that, if I find the right artist to help me, I would like to turn that into a graphic novel. I think that would be fun. Maybe it would be, because there's so much in here, maybe it would become like a 3 set of the Henna Artist or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So if you know any graphic artists out there, I need to know who they are.
That's wonderful. Well, I wanted to thank you. I'm just going to check for any questions. If anyone has any questions that they wanted to ask.
Yeah, I'm always open to questions, whatever you'd like to know. Some people actually say, what is the lipstick color you're wearing?
Lovely lipstick color. We wear masks all the time at work, so I'm so out of the habit of wearing lipstick because it would just be a mess. So I'm enjoying yours very much.
With when I go outside and wear a mask, it goes all over the place. I do not like that at all. But it's easy enough in my own home and with Zooms. I love putting lipstick on. It's like my favorite makeup is lipstick. That's what I like.
One of our patrons is asking if you could repeat the name of your mentor's book again.
Yes, it's called The Blood of Flowers. And I think she's referring to the color that goes into a Persian carpet, that red that goes into the Persian carpet is like the blood of flowers. I wanted to name the henna artist the enemy of the crocodile, which nobody at the publishers liked. And they finally had a talk with me about it. And, my editor there called and she goes, Alka, we're just kind of rethinking your title. If it's all right with you, enemy of the crocodile doesn't make any sense to anybody. And I think that we would just really like to call it the henna artist. And I said, well, okay. It's like, well, you guys know your business more than I do, right? I mean, you have to rely on different people in all of your life who are experts in something you're not an expert in. Like my agent is an expert in knowing what is going to make a bestseller. My editor is an expert in telling me what's going to fly off the shelf. And, the various reviewers that I've had are experts at letting me know when they're readers, what is appealing to them, which character is appealing to them, and so on. So I just have learned over time that I need to rely on different people for different expertise, and I need to get out of the way. So I'm so glad that they talked me into calling it the henna artist, because that was a far better title. So then when it came to the Secret Keeper of Jaipur, I just said to them, would you please title this for me? Would you just send me some title ideas? They're far better at it than I am. And I think for book number 3, I'm going to do the same thing. Would you guys give me some ideas for titles?
That's wisdom, I think. Someone is asking what your connection with the practice of henna is.
So, as far back as I can remember as a girl living in India, and, we didn't leave India until I was 9, I always saw women with henna on their hands. Our neighbors, my mom would get her hands hennaed for Diwali and for major functions. Of course, for weddings, you had to have your hands hennaed. And, I would beg my mother to do everything that my mother did. I wanted, if she had a new salwar kameez made, I wanted that same salwar kameez. So she would sometimes have a miniature version made for me. It was so cute. And yeah. And so I just have always seen henna on women's hands. And so when it came time to pick a profession for Lakshmi, I was trying to think, is she going to be a seamstress? Is she going to, but how would she do something that's going to get her into the houses of these elite people? What is she going to do? I'm not going to have her clean house, because if she cleans house, they're not going to treat her in the same way that they would if she were sitting on the same divan with them, talking to them about, their progeny who's getting married, and their, the problems that they're having with their husbands and so on. They're not going to share that. So I thought, what is something I can give Lakshmi to do, since she's a high caste woman, that would allow her into the homes of these people? And henna came to me, particularly because my husband brought home this book called Hindu Altars. And it was just, he said, honey, maybe there's something in here that will help you with your writing. And sure enough, in the side of this are these beautiful hennaed hands. And I thought, oh my God, that's what Lakshmi could do. She could become a henna artist. Well, I told my mother, what I was doing with Lakshmi's job. And my mom said, honey, we are Brahmin. A Brahmin is not allowed to do henna. That just doesn't happen. And especially in the 1950s, it wouldn't have happened. And so she said, that's work reserved for a different caste. So I said, well, Mom, what if Lakshmi is a high caste woman, but she's doing the work of a lower caste? Doesn't that allow her a certain latitude with all of these women who think that they are better than her? And it allows them also to sort of treat her as if she is less than, but still make her a confidant, right? It's like, yes, we all went to the same school, but I have a far better job than you do. So I get to feel better about myself, that kind of thing. And
Sure.
so And so my mom said, okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I think that you could do that. So that's how she became a henna artist.
Interesting. Someone's asking, is Samir based on anyone?
No one,
No one.
but I think that all of us women have known people like Samir throughout our lifetime, right? He is the charming guy. He's the guy who you go to a party and he gets you a drink and he makes you feel like you're the only woman in the room while he is standing in front of you. But then in 5 minutes from now, you will see him doing the same thing to another woman. So
we've all met that man.
yes, we have all met that man. And yeah, when we're younger, we fall for that man. When we're younger, we think, oh, he is it. This is the guy. He knows everybody. He's charming. He tells good stories. He makes he makes good money. Blah blah blah. And then as we get older, we realize that maybe that guy is a good guy to go out with, but not to marry.
Yes, very much. And then I think our last question is someone's asking about Malik. He seems so knowledgeable and perceptive. He was so integral to the story. Will we learn his backstory?
Yes, in The Secret Keeper of Jaipur, you learn a lot about his backstory, and you actually learn who took care of him after his mother left. His mother just disappeared one day. You will also learn that he wasn't allowed then to go visit that woman who took care of him. And it was largely because she had a husband who did not like Malik. So when Malik left to go to Shimla with Lakshmi in the Henna Artist, he actually had to leave. There was no option for him. It wasn't as if Lakshmi was saying, Malik, would you like to come with me? She knew that he had to leave or his life was kind of threatened. So that is one reason why he went with her to Shimla, and he ends up going to that really nice boys' school.
I actually see one tiny little last question. Are we going to see Paris in the third book?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. My dad, who is also a huge fan of my books and reads my books and gives me so much great information about India of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, he is like a wealth of information. My dad's 89, but man, his brain sharp. So he was, reading my book and everything. And he said, honey, I just read your draft of your third novel. And you have so many French phrases in here. I said, yeah, Dad, that's because Radha is in Paris. So she's not speaking as much Hindi as before. She's going to speak a lot more Parisian. She's speaking to her husband in French. She's speaking to her mother-in-law in French. So there are quite a few French phrases, but just a little smidgen here and there to give you the feeling of where you are. And I loved going back to Paris last fall and hanging out in the same places where Radha is hanging out, just so I'd be able to describe them really easily. And I know exactly where she lives. I know the apartment she lives in. I know what furniture she has. And that was so much fun. And then I figured out what international school her two daughters go to and where her mother-in-law lives. And then I also figured out, she has a visitor from 18 years ago, whom she hasn't seen in all of those years. And he comes to Paris just to see her. And that is just going to blow her mind because Pierre has no idea what happened to her when she was 13. So that's what's happening in book number 3. She does go to India and meet up with Lakshmi. So we do have India in the book as well. But I love that combination of putting both France and India in the same book together and having people going back and forth into it. Yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited. And when again is the third book expected, or do you have a date or?
As far as I know, HarperCollins is planning to release it in spring of 2023, early 2023.
Okay.
And that should be right about the same time that maybe the first couple of episodes of The Henna Artist will be premiering.
It's so wonderful to have things to look forward to right now. So
yes.
Keep looking ahead.
Yes.
Well, Alka, I want to thank you so much for giving us the gift of your time this evening. This has been an absolute delight. So,
oh my gosh, I loved it. This is so much fun. And it's just really heartwarming to see all of these people who are loving the book. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you for coming, and take care.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.